shall come. No more clouds in the sky, no more tears to dim the eye. All is peace forevermore on that happy golden shore. What a day, glorious day that will be. What a day that will be when my Jesus I shall see, and I look upon his face, the one who saved me by his grace. When he takes me by the hand and leads me through the promised land. What a day, glorious day that will be. There'll be no sorrow there, no more burdens to bear, no more sickness, no pain, no more parting over there, and forever I will be with the one who died for me. What a day, glorious day that will be. What a day that will be when my Jesus I shall see, and I look upon his face, the one who saved me by his grace. When he takes me by the hand and leads me through the promised land. What a day, glorious day that will be.
I won't let the day you didn't plan. Every single moment is in your hands. Even if the whole world shakes, you're the rock on which I stand. So when it seems it can't be done, I know God is big enough. I can run the race I'm called to run, 'cause I know God is big enough. Finish
Pastors' Wives Appreciation Month. I'll be honest with you. Never heard of that before. I didn't know it existed. And so I asked Tyler. Tyler said, I had never heard of it. And I said, oh my, so I picked up the phone. I called my sister. I said, I need a favor. Called my daughter. I need a favor. And I said, there's no way I'm going to go through this. Sorry. We got married, and we were in this sanctuary, the old sanctuary, and Brother Allen married us for rich or for poor, in sickness and in health. I remember when I was a teenager, and I would be sitting back where Brother Allen's sitting now, and there used to be a couple that sat up here, Brother and Sister Neerhoof, and they were in their 80s. And Brother Neerhoof was kind of a big guy, and Sister Neerhoof was just a tiny little lady, and she had her hair pulled back in a tight little bun. And they looked like that couple, that picture with the farmer with the pitchfork and all. They kind of looked like that. And I remember sitting back there at 17 and 18 thinking to myself, I wonder when he looks at her, does he see an 80-something-year-old woman, or does he see his bride? And I was always fascinated by that. And then I got married. And when, nowadays I guess we're supposed to say we got pregnant. I don't remember throwing up every morning, okay? But so we got pregnant, and I can remember looking at my wife, and I'm just thinking, man, there was a glow. I mean, I know people say that all the time, but there was. And I just thought to myself, she is so beautiful, And then, of course, we had our second child, and now we've been married for 43 years. And I look and I go, that's my beautiful bride. But a couple years ago, I got sick. And I get emotional about it because I hate that I put her through it. But she went through it with me. I couldn't take care of myself. I couldn't remember anything. I still have problems. Every Sunday before I go to church, did you get this? Did you get that? And if I called her, she goes, what did you forget? And every time I turned, she was there. She's always calling, how you doing today? And there's a couple things I learned through being sick for about 2 years. One thing I learned was that, man, my church family loves me because you're so good to me. But man, I learned what that vow meant when it said in sickness and in health, because we lived it. And my wife never complains. All right. So it didn't surprise me not to hear any complaints from her. But the thing that I've always been amazed about my wife and the women of the church is how strong they are. How strong they are. And I've gotten my sequence messed here because Tyler was supposed to go first, but you're just going to have to wait. You've only got to talk about a year or two, and I've got 43 to cover. And I told the church on Thursday night, I was telling them about some training I'm going through in a book I have to read. And the book was kind of getting on my nerves because it seemed like to me it was a bunch of whining and complaining. And these pastors were, being a pastor's hard. Yeah, I know that. Tell me what's going to help. Well, I'll tell you what helps. A godly wife. That when I get discouraged, and Karen's my sounding board, I can say things to her I can't say to anybody else in this world. And that's the way it should be. And I can let her know my discouragement. I can let her know my frustration. And she'll say, no, honey, you just gotta press on. You gotta do this. You gotta do that. And so she always trying to ground me. And she does a good job at it. And I love her. I kid her sometimes. I'll say, you know you're my favorite wife, right? She'll say, well, I better be the only wife. And I said, but I like her to know you're my favorite, you know. I don't care if I was like Solomon and had all them wives and concubines. You'd be my favorite, okay? But I've told her, you know, through the years, I think I've learned what love is. We met when we used to work at a restaurant in town, Duff's, together, and I was a pot washer and dishwasher and all that, and she was working the floor, and I saw this pretty blonde clock out one night. I had stalking skills that I didn't know I had. I walked over to the time clock, and I kind of saw where she, and I got the name off of it. I was on my way home from work. I stopped at, there used to be, Mr. Tucker used to own the gas station at the corner of US 1 and 50. I had worked there a little bit here and there, and I knew there was a phone book there. I stopped in and got that phone book, and I looked in there, and there was only 2 Novotnys in the whole book, and it just so happened he had a city map on his window, and one of the Novotnys happened to live on the street behind one of our members. And so I knew where that was, and I said, I'm going to drive over there. And so I drove down Cristobal, and I saw her car, and I said, okay, I know where she's at now. And the rest is history. I won't bore you with all the other stuff, but I think that this is an appropriate thing to acknowledge the pastor's wives. Folks, I'm up here every Sunday, every Thursday. I get to say what I get to say. I get to, you know, I get a lot of credit. I get a lot of complaints. I get a lot of the blame. I get all that. I get all the attention. And my wife's just standing over here, and she's just my rock. When we first started, well, I guess we had just come back from the Army, and Karen was very quiet. And they were talking to me about becoming a deacon. And I kept putting them off. I didn't feel good about it and all this stuff. But I remember this, that when I decided that, yes, this is something I need to do for the Lord, I sat down with her. I said, honey, if I'm going to do this, I need you to, because she would walk through the door, come in and sit down and just be quiet. Now, if someone spoke to her, she'd speak. But, and to be honest with you, a lot of people didn't like her because they thought she was a snob. But she's not. She never was. She's just quiet. So I said, honey, I'm going to need you to get up on your feet. I'm going to need you to be more open and more available to people. And when we went to church that next Sunday, she was standing right there, greeting people as they were coming in. And I just like, wow. And I've been doing this for 15 years. And, you know, I got a late start in life and all that. But I tell people all the time, my wife has grown this much while I've grown about this much. I'm so proud of her. And when I tell you I couldn't do it without her, I promise you. I had a conversation with someone just here a while back, and I said, let me tell you something. If God's put a call on your life, he's got a call on your wife. And there's no doubt in my mind she has a calling, because she has demonstrated to me wisdom, kindness, gentleness, and she's just been an example of all those things to me through the years. I have learned far more from her than I know I've been able to teach her. But if she knows anything, I want her to know I love you. I'm going to let you have your time.
Well, that's a hard well, now it being almost 3 years, us being married, not just 1 or 2. You know, it's, you know, sometimes you look at a church, you look at a pastor, you look at a youth pastor, you see all their responsibilities or all the things they do or don't do, whatever. And it's easy just to kind of focus on what they're doing. In reality, I think one of the hardest jobs in the church is probably being the pastor of a youth pastor's wife. reality, there's so much, Alex, you do behind the scenes that nobody knows. Biggest one is listening to me, listening to either my complaints or my things that I stress about that shouldn't be stressed about. In reality, it's because you have a really big heart. You have a servant's heart, and you have a loving heart. Reality, you grew up in ministry. You grew up being the daughter of a pastor, and you could have responded in a way of literally wanting to do nothing, like not wanting to have anything to do with ministry. You could have had that mindset. You could have, you saw the hard things. You saw all the difficulties, and you could have ran away from it. But instead, you went to Bible college and ran towards it. And that's been my favorite thing that you've probably ever done in your life, is that you went to that college and we were able to meet. You came to ministries because, you love the Lord. You, even though ministry could have been one of those things, you could have been bitter, you just wanted to serve God. You wanted to serve people. Those two things are the things that make you who you are. In our life, one of the things that in our 3 years of marriage that I see the most is that you are the most selfless person I know. You put your need, or let me rephrase that. You put others' needs before yours. You put Everett's needs, you put my needs, you even put people in the church's needs before yours. And you prove that. 1.5 years ago when I got a phone call and said, hey, I think we should go down to Florida and try out for a church, for a youth pastor. You didn't argue with me and say, no, I'm not going to do that. You didn't get mad. You didn't get upset. You said, okay, if this is what God wants us to do, then let's do it. Let's try it. Let's see if this is what the Lord has for us. Even though you had never moved more than 30 minutes from your parents before. You've always been willing to do what God has for you, no matter how difficult or no matter how inconvenient it could be sometimes. You've always put God's will first. You've always put God first. And after God, you've always put your family first. And when I say your family, I mean me and Everett. But in the reality of it, you truly do. This past year, we've gone through different things, having to learn. Even yesterday, when we were talking, you said, we're not the same people who came down here last year. And we're not. You've been that iron that has sharpened me. You've been that iron that has continually put my eyes back on the Lord, that continually, every single day, says, Tyler, it's okay. It's going to be fine. Don't worry. Don't stress. It's good. And those are the things people don't see. They don't see all the amazing things you do and everything you are. They do. But they don't always see everything behind the scenes that you do. And I'm very thankful for you. I'm thankful, as Pastor D said, reality is, I know sometimes it might just sound like a statement, couldn't do ministry without you. Reality is, I probably couldn't. You do so many things, whether it is last-minute drives to get stuff for a youth event, whether it is making sure my head doesn't fall off, making sure I don't lose my sanity with technology. You're always there. And you've always been, whether it was after we first got married and, we were bivocational, we were starting, we didn't really have much, to now when, we are full-time and this is our life. You've always been there. You've always been supportive. You've always been committed. And you've always been selflessly loving to me and Everett. I think I'm going to stop there just because I probably could keep going for a long, long, long more time. But I truly am thankful for everything you do. I see it. I see who you are. I see your transformation from being my new bride to being my wife of a year to being now the mother of my child. Of our child, and just seeing how you've grown and just seeing you each and every single day just amazes me, and your love for God. And I'm just very thankful for you, and I love you.
had I not been so ignorant. But your church family wanted to acknowledge you as well for all that you do. And so very thankful for what you do for us. And I want to say just a quick word about Sister Alex. Last week I was back there. She was practicing that song she sang today, and I'm back there crying. But I really have been impressed with these two young people. They have grown. But let me tell you, one of the hardest things, because I just retired in January, I've done 15 years of bivocational ministry. And the hardest thing for a youth pastor to do with a bivocational pastor is to be here every day by himself and carry the load on some things and not just be able to pop his head in the door. I mean, the other day, man, Tyler come in and said, hey, I got a question about, and of course it's some really difficult doctrinal thing, I'm like, well, I'm glad to be here for that, but can you make them easier? But it's hard for them. It's hard for them. There's a book called Bivocational Pastor, and I forget the author's name, but he nailed it. He nailed about how lonely it can be in the pastorate. And so I understand that, and I do. I appreciate their heart. I appreciate how hard they work, and I appreciate what they are willing to do, the passion they have for our young people, and trying to teach them about Jesus Christ. Because if we can do that for our young people, man, their future is strong. I look at what's going on in the world, and I just think, man, I think today, many times we've talked about, I'm glad I'm not parenting today. I mean, boy, you've got to really, really be on guard. I was talking to a young man at work, and we were talking about, parenting and this and that. And he was telling me that one of the advantages, if you think it's an advantage, he said, well, I always know where my kids are. Your kids were out in the neighborhood playing and doing stuff like that. You didn't know sometimes. He goes, I always know where my kids are. They're in the room on the video game. And I thought, well, I said, that's kind of odd. I had never thought about that. I guess I don't know if that's a good thing or not. I'd rather have them out playing in the neighborhood and cutting their knees and, scraping themselves up a little bit and knowing how to fall down and get back up. But I appreciate their heart for our young people. So let me say, hi, I'm Pastor D, and I pastor Truth Free Will Baptist Church right here at 5311 Barna Avenue in Titusville. I just wanted to take a moment to thank you for watching this sermon, and I pray for those of you who haven't made a decision for Christ that this message would have given you something to think about and to consider what lies ahead in eternity. For those of you who are believers, I pray the message was an encouragement to you. The uncertain times in which we live, we certainly need to be reminded that we serve an almighty God. Also, I want to take a minute to invite you to our 16th Annual Friend Day. It'll be on April 3rd at 10 a.m. We'll have the Gibbs family here to provide special music, and of course we'll have a fellowship dinner to follow. It would be our honor to have you here as our friend on the 3rd of April at 10 a.m. Also, I would like to ask that if this ministry has been a blessing to you, if you would prayerfully consider going to our webpage at www.truthfwbc.com and go to that first page and scroll down to the bottom of the page where you'll see a donation button. And certainly we would appreciate any support that you would be able to give in that sense. But once again, just want to thank you. It has been our honor to serve you this morning.